In this post-apocalyptic world, water resources are incredibly valuable, and these three individuals control an entire dam. As mentioned in the previous episode, Victor sold the information of the dam to Proctor for the sake of profit. Originally, they could have taken over the dam without bloodshed, but Troy unintentionally stumbled upon news of the impending attack. However, they were unaware that Victor was the mole. The people at the dam had become cautious and had rigged explosives around the dam as a precautionary measure. Victor's plan was thwarted, and he urged Madison's family to escape immediately, as Madison had saved him multiple times. Nick prepared to lead his mother to safety, and during their conversation, Madison learned that it was Troy who had led the zombies to the farm.
I led the horde to the ranch.
Madison felt a surge of anger and self-blame for sparing Troy's life. Suddenly, she swung a hammer and killed Troy. Troy had lacked maternal love since childhood, leading to an Oedipus complex. He had fallen in love with Madison at first sight. It's a different kind of love. On the other hand, Kalitaka and Lee chose to leave upon learning of Proctor's plan to attack the dam. The people at the trading center were ruthless, former drug lords from the pre-apocalyptic era. Kalitaka and Lee had no desire to die there. Meanwhile, Lola and Daniel realized that the direction of the water flow had been reversed and were preparing to make adjustments.
Lola? Step away from those levers.
It turned out that Victor was behind this manipulation. Now that the pipes are unguarded, someone from the outside could easily get in. Daniel calmly persuaded Victor. He knew Victor might be a liar, but not a man who killed people at random. Although Daniel was skilled, he was past his prime and found himself at a disadvantage in their dispute. The next thing he knows, Daniel is moving again, and a bullet has passed through his face. Victor received orders to kill Lola and Daniel but chose to let them go. Soon, the trading center's people entered the reservoir through the pipes. Madison and Nick were about to leave when they encountered the trading center's men, causing them to hastily flee. These individuals believed that Victor had everything under control and that all they needed to do was take over. However, they unexpectedly encountered fierce resistance from the dam's personnel, resulting in a heated gunfight where no mercy was shown.
I thought they weren't expecting us.
The Water Queen and her general are dead.
Save it for Proctor, John.
At this point, Victor couldn't control the fate of others.
Madison!
Son of a bitch.
Berate me later. You've got to hide. Follow me.
Subsequently, Victor led Madison and Nick to a house, instructing them to stay put until the situation resolved. To be on the safe side, he took the explosives detonator from Madison. With the situation seemingly under control, Proctor, the leader of the trading center, brought Alicia to oversee the takeover. Observing the lifeless bodies floating in the water, Alicia became increasingly worried about the safety of her mother and the others. Proctor's men were already waiting at the dock.
What happened? This was meant to be a knife through butter. No resistance, you say?
Mea culpa. Someone tipped off the dam you were coming. It was beyond my control, but all is well now.
There are corpses floating in the water we're meant to distribute and drink. And my men. Casualties.
Dozen brothers dead.
A dozen dead brothers.
The guards have surrendered. Please, your men are executing the workers.
I told them to secure the dam, and that's what they're doing. Plan to be persuasive.
And Victor intentionally remained behind. He informed Alicia that Madison and Nick were safe. Victor told Proctor that he had killed Daniel and Lola, but in reality, he had spared them. At this point, Lola and Daniel were hiding in the basement, and Daniel had narrowly escaped death multiple times. Lola intended to find her good friend Efren and escape together. However, when she quietly approached the control room, her expression suddenly turned mournful. Efren had been shot through a sieve. Lola's sadness turned into determination and anger. On the other side, Victor comes into the room to find Madison. Now that things are out of his control, he urged Madison and Nick to quickly change into workers' clothing and then led them up to the dam. Meanwhile, the people from the trading center were mercilessly slaughtering the dam's workers.
Get to the end of that bridge, cross that checkpoint, you blend in with the locals. Lose the uniforms, walk, and keep walking. Proctor John wanted me to dispose of these traitors myself.
How do we find Alicia?
You don't. Take the gun and hide yourselves in town. I find Alicia, get out of here.
We could just find her now and take her with us.
I thought this out, Nick. This is the best I can do.
Can't leave her. I don't have a good feeling about it.
If there's no accident, there's bound to be one. Lola, filled with anger, started shooting at the attackers. She despised these executioners who were killing innocents. She never expected to survive this ordeal. However, it doesn't take long for Lola to be pierced by a bullet, and the person who kills her is none other than Proctor, who has just arrived. Proctor was seething with anger, and Victor's earlier assurance that he had killed Lola and Daniel seemed like a lie. Now, a few more of Proctor's men had been killed by Lola. Victor's been beaten up, too.
Shut up, darling.
Alicia's pleas fell on deaf ears as she was merely a pawn in Proctor's hands. Proctor also got to know the family briefly, and he learned that it was Nick and Troy who made the inquiries.
Is your friend here, Nick?
No, he's dead. My mom killed him.
Wow. Really? You killed your son's
It
friend?
was more threat than friend.
Ultimately, Proctor decided that this family was a destabilizing factor and opted to eliminate them all. The first to accept death was Nick. After bidding farewell to his mother and sister, Nick surprisingly hugged Victor.
Safe travels.
In the end times, it's so cruel that the weak humans are like meat on the chopping block, and that's when Victor decided to do something about it.
There's an end game here, Proctor. One on which you did not plan.
You really do talk too much.
Lola and Daniel didn't have enough guns to defend the dam, so they wired it with explosives.
Bullshit.
Top to bottom, C4 to build the dam, C4 to take it down.
Take his tongue already.
Unfortunately, Proctor doesn't believe in Victor's bullshit. Victor was about to show his hand when the original detonator disappeared. The scene was very awkward for a while.
You got a hole in your pocket?
So, Nick hugged Victor just now in order to get hold of the detonator.
Says it's armed.
Don't touch the other button.
What, the one that says detonate?
The situation became awkward, and Nick laid out his terms.
My mom and sister are gonna take a Zodiac across the lake.
Nick, don't do this.
Nick, just come with us. Please.
He can't do that, nurse.
Go. Just go.
This was perhaps the most courageous thing Nick had ever done in his life. Proctor didn't stop them. He knew he could deal with them after this crisis. They don't waste time. They head for the shore. There's one person everyone's ignoring.
Oh, senor.
Handsome and a good fighter, Daniel. At that moment, Proctor was still trying to deceive Nick with apocalyptic rhetoric. Nick stated that the previous farm owner who had deceived him had already met his end. All Nick has to do now is wait for his mother's boat to get away and then detonate the dam. But as if on purpose, the yacht won't start. Proctor's lost his patience. He's got people rushing up to grab the triggers. At that moment, Daniel arrived at the dam. As soon as he opened the door, Daniel fell into silence. Lola lay silently by the bridge, and Daniel's expression turned dark and frightening. Daniel's daughter's relics were placed in Lola's hand. He had long regarded Lola as his other daughter. Now, Lola had been killed. Daniel picked up his gun and started walking towards the distance. It's a good thing the yacht still started.
You got it. Let's go.
Just as Proctor's men closed in on Nick, a shot pierced his head. However, the people on the bridge couldn't locate the shooter. It was Kalitaka and Lee, who had left earlier but returned to lend a hand. Proctor, after all, is a veteran of the game and is calm and collected. Madison and the others are not out of the explosion range. Nick is afraid to detonate.
Kill him.
Then, a figure also carrying a gun came over. It is Daniel to take revenge. Seeing that Madison had moved a safe distance away, Nick activated the detonator. resulting in a deafening explosion that reverberated throughout the dam. Immediately afterward, a massive crack appeared in the ground, forcing Proctor to withdraw with the help of his remaining men. However, Nick underestimated the consequences of the explosion. The dam's rupture caused a relentless outpouring of water. Despite their efforts to increase the boat's power, it was pulled toward the opening by the strong current. Seeing no way to turn the situation around, Kalitaka and Lee had no choice but to retreat. Daniel also pulls Nick and prepares to evacuate. This place could collapse at any time. Madison. They were still carried into the gap by the current. The dam's breach ultimately fulfilled its mission, returning the water to the people. Fear the Walking Dead, Season 3, concluded. The original team has been torn apart. Some say the Madisons are destroyed wherever they go. But man is not a machine, can't be perfect in everything. The story's ending leaves behind numerous mysteries. We would like to express our gratitude to the dedicated fans who have followed the show all along. You are the motivation that kept us committed to completing this series. Thank you very much.
Humble birth, the Son of God, descend.